Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. I'm your host, Gary Mara, and this is part one of our one-year retrospective. Over the next couple of episodes, we're looking back at the moments that defined year one. And today, we're starting with a look back at my favorite part of the show, the segments, Does It Hold Water, and Chip Shots. They come at the end of every episode, and they produce some of the best moments of the year. My guests love them, I love doing them, and the feedback has been incredible. So here's what we're doing today. I've pulled the best clips from both segments across the entire first year, and I'm playing the back for you with a little bit of context for each one. Basically, it's the year one All Star team, right? This past year has been incredible. We're listened to in over 40 countries on the audio alone. The YouTube channel has tens of thousands of watches between the clips and the full length episodes. And most importantly, we've had wonderful guests sharing invaluable insights. I've learned so much doing the show, and I hope you've gotten as much out of it as I have listening. So, thank you for being here in year one. It's been a great year. Let's see why. First up, let's talk about chip shots. This segment comes from my love of golf. Chip shots are those little short shots around the green. They're a key to your success, but there's something people don't practice often enough, right? So, it's the same idea here. Short form questions about important things we don't always think about or talk about as much as we should. At the end of every episode, I ask my guests a series of questions, kind of quick fire short form questions. And what I've done for you today is I've taken the best of the answers for the entire year and put them together for you. And what I've noticed putting this together is a lot of my favorite answers revolved around one question. And that question is, what is a failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson that you still use today? Now, the guests I have on the show are very successful people, so it's really interesting to hear them talk about learning from their mistakes. So to hear these leaders relate that failure early in their career and how it still carries with them to this day has worked out really, really well. All right. So to start things out today, you're about to hear from, in order, Christy Faltorusso, Katie Stabler, Alyssa Nolte, and Tim McCleary. Okay. So the next one for you, I think, will be interesting. Is there a experience or failure early in your career that you learned from that you still carry with you today? A lesson that you've learned.
Advocate for yourself. Nobody else is advocating for you. You have got to be your biggest champion. That means negotiate for what you deserve. It means advocate for what you believe. Nobody else is in the room fighting for you the way you'd fight for yourself.
Okay, so we've talked a little about your early career, but is there a particular experience or failure specifically in your early career that taught you a valuable lesson that you still use today?
Probably too many
Too
to
many.
think about. Too many. I talking about customer experience in particular. I think that the biggest setback that I had to learn from was just how important all of your stakeholders are in how successful what you're going to do will be. And I think I took for granted a relatively senior level role and thought that people would come to me. They would engage with me. They would ask for my support. They would buy in. And that wasn't the case. You know, I had to, probably a few months down the line, it took me to realize this, but I had to go and knock on doors. I had to build those relationships. I had to understand what drove them so I could tell the right stories, share the right messages, and communicate in the right way. And just learn how incredibly important those partnerships are. And I guess that goes for any role, really, but I've definitely noticed it more so in the world of customer experience. So a setback is to not rest on your laurels and think those relationships will happen out of nowhere. You've got to go out, build them, and make sure you're speaking the language of all your stakeholders.
But is there a particular experience or failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson?
So a lot of my lessons, I tend to move fast and break things. So a lot of my lessons are retrospective. But the lesson that I always come back to is something that I actually learned in a student group in college. So not even in my quote unquote professional career. It was a student group. I had applied to be on the executive board. I was chosen to be the executive director. And there were a lot of people who were on the executive board who actually had more experience than me. So even though I was the quote unquote leader of the group, there was a lot of people that I was expected to lead that had been here longer, knew more, and had just chosen not to pursue that particular opportunity, that particular role. And so, like the young leader I was at the time, I came in with the attitude of, I'm the leader, I'm in charge, my way or the highway. And you can guess about how well that went. It was a really miserable experience for everybody involved. And I had to learn the hard way that just because you're the leader, just because you're in charge, doesn't mean you have the mandate to lead. And so I had to basically spend many, many months fixing what was ultimately just a few weeks of bad leadership. But it took me months to repair those relationships, and some of them never even got repaired. And so ultimately, our cause suffered because I didn't have what it took to be humble and to recognize that just because I'm the boss doesn't mean I'm in charge.
Next one. Is there a particular experience or failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson that you still use today?
Yeah, this was not so much early in my career. I was probably mid-30s, and I've talked about GE a lot in our conversation, but this is one that I love, and it has had a big impact on me over the years. When I was leading global brand, my manager was leading advertising, and her name is Judy Hu, highly, highly educated woman. She was tough when she needed to be, but she was so kind to our team.
Mm-hmm.
She protected and nurtured us as individuals. She had quite a good sized team. She gave us room to learn, to make mistakes, and as a result, to grow. And to this day, in fact, I was just talking to a former team member. I hadn't talked to him in probably 15 years. We had a conversation just last week. And we got talking about Judy, and there isn't a person that was on her team that doesn't still rave about what an exceptional manager she was, and how special our team was as a result. What I love that she did. Now, we both traveled a lot, but on the days that we were in the corporate office in Fairfield, Connecticut, every single day the two of us were there. She would show up at my door at the end of the day and say, "Thanks for everything today." Now, that could seem like just a throwaway comment.
Right.
Thanks for everything today. She was so sincere in the way she said it that I felt like she saw me and my contribution to what we were doing on the team. And I've remembered that. I've done it with my team, letting them know I've got an exceptional team of 21 people based in places all over the world. Not only are they exceptional professionals, they're incredible people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they show up to do work with our clients, I'm always just so appreciative of who they are and what they bring, and let them know that I appreciate what they've done each day.
Okay, another question that has produced great results is what's one unusual or unconventional lesson that's really stuck with you? It's a bit of a curveball, and the unusual nature of it really produces some impact. And for this question, I have two wonderful responses for you. One is from Chris Gillen about the impact his grandmother had on him, and one is from Matt Feiner about the impact of silence. I'm going to go with you because I think you'll have an interesting answer to this one. What is the most unexpected or unconventional lesson you've learned in your career that's proven to be invaluable?
So I mentioned to you that my grandfather was a very important part of my life, and so was my grandmother. And my grandmother passed away at 98 years old. And she always had this saying and taught me very early on. And I've just carried this with me for, 50 plus years. Worry, which we all suffer from, right? Whether you're worrying about, life, work, bills, family, whatever, is like a bill that will never come due. You're waiting for it, but you never get it. And so many people right now are sick with anxiety and worry and stress over so many things. And I'm not discounting that. Some of that is real for people, but more often than not, you find that the things that you're worried about are so trivial that you shouldn't worry about them. It's like that bill you're waiting on, but it never ever comes. And so I use that too. And how I translate that from in my career is, and it's cliched, but I try not to let the little things matter. I try to put my energy on the big problems and worry less about the little ones that I know are either insignificant or going to fall away in a couple of days. And because worry is a disease, I mean, that's what kills you inside. You're always worried. So when you can get to a place where you recognize, I don't need to worry about that. That's going to be okay. And you can focus on the things that really matter. It does change the way you lead.
What's the most unexpected or unconventional lesson you learned in your career?
I would say in meetings, just like silence, sometimes I find that people just, when you aren't getting to where you want to get to, sometimes people just talk too much. And I have found that sometimes when I'm in a really intense meeting, and I just stop talking for 20 seconds, it sounds and it feels like a really long time, but often what's really going on comes out. And I don't use it enough because I really have found that when it really dawns on me to be like, this is a good time to sort of keep your mouth shut and just see what happens. It's an underused approach, and one that's very counterintuitive in today's society, where everybody just wants to talk and get their point of view out there. But that's one that kind of jumps out for me.
Okay, now my favorite question that I now ask of every guest is, if you could shadow one leader right now, who would it be and what would you hope to learn? And I've gotten wonderful responses, very varied. And I'm usually looking for a real life leader, a current leader. And I don't think we've had a single repeat answer. But there is one special answer I wanted to bring to you from Andrew Carruthers. We had Andrew on to talk about storytelling. His father was a Hollywood screenwriter who showed him the power of storytelling. So, of course, when I asked if there is one leader he wished he could speak to today, we're giving him a pass that he chose someone from the past. He gave a very thoughtful and personal answer about his father. Here it is. If you could spend the day shadowing a leader professional in any industry, who would it be and what would you hope to learn?
Boy, if I could, I would be shadowing my dad from a storytelling perspective.
Right.
And as an adult and firmly set in my career, to be able to, I would get so much more out of those conversations to really understand. And he told me a little bit about the inner workings, not just of storytelling, but of Hollywood and the conversations he had with studio executives, actors and directors, et cetera. But again, to be able to have those conversations now with the level of knowledge I have and to be able to apply that to my career, that would be phenomenally valuable.
Is there anything you could share that he worked on that people would know?
Sure. I mean, if you're a certain age, movies like The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. Hero at Large with John Ritter. He worked very closely with Disney right before and up until and then after Disney died. In fact, if you ever come to San Francisco, in the Presidio, there is a Walt Disney Museum, and you'll see video of my dad in there talking about the impact of employees at the studio when Disney died. So he made a number of Disney films, Emil the Detective, Miracle of the White Stallions, etc. And then he had a very popular TV series that he created and wrote a number of them called Manning the Professor. A bunch of things like that.
One of the fun things we do with Chip Shots is we can call audible. Hell, it's my show. I can do whatever I want. If there's something interesting about a guest, something unique in their background, we can throw it in there. So here are two moments where calling an audible led to something really cool. The first one is with JP Dumas, and the second one is with Rick Denton. Here they are. We're calling an audible here. So as you said, you are known as a bit of a sneakerhead. So tell everybody, what is in your starting rotation right now? And do you have a pair that you save for big presentation days?
Yeah. So, obviously so here's my top 5 Nike, because I get asked this question all the time. It's going to be Jordan 1, the Chicago version, because that's amazing, right? It is the one that started it all, white, black, and red, back in the day when everyone either had white shoes or black shoes. Number 2, we're going to have black cement 3s, because that is just the grail, shout out 1988 and its companion piece. We got to have the white cement 3. The great ones. I'd also say, let's go with the black cement and bread Jordan 4s, because shout out 1989. We got to have both of those sets in there. And I would say, rounding this out, is you can't go anywhere and not have the Jordan 11s. This is the shoe that is patent leather. This is where we made patent leather cool. So it was an easy layup here for the answer. You say, well, what do you wear for special occasions or suits? You can wear the 72 and 10s, or you can wear the bread 11s, or you can wear the Jubilees, or the cap and gowns. Any of those shiny patent leather go with your suits. Amazing shoes. But the most important thing is it comes back to the shoes for me are about authenticity, that you can show up as who you are. And we're now in a place where we used to exclusively have to wear the hard bottoms. And a lot of years we did that with the coat and tie. We all remember that because we're all in sales and whatnot. To now we're at a point where we can have a little bit of comfort on our feet and have a little bit of fun with it. So that's a full expression of who we are. So that's why I'm a sneakerhead.
We're going to start with the fact that, Rick's podcast, his names are the one with, right? So
yes.
That started
Very Friends inspired.
The Friends inspired. So I'm going to start with a sitcom question for you. Now, this is true. I had a business school. My law professor in business school used to teach us business law using Seinfeld episodes because he had to make it interesting. So, what is the best business lesson you've learned from Seinfeld?
Ooh. Oh, the best. Okay, so the problem with going improv is I may start talking and then think of another one.
Go ahead.
But
I'll come up with two. There's no rules.
A key lesson is get it in writing.
Yeah.
And I think to the puffy shirt episode, which that is actually the object that's sitting in the Smithsonian, is the puffy shirt.
Is it really?
Where Seinfeld was unclear what he was being asked to do by the low talker, the quiet talker.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up, unbeknownst to him, agreeing to wear a puffy shirt on the Today Show in one of his interviews. And so the lesson there is whatever you're agreeing to in business, get it in writing so that there is no lack of clarity and there is no future misunderstanding about wearing a puffy shirt on the Today Show.
Brilliant.
How's that?
Wonderful. Now, to wrap things up, let's talk about the first question we always ask on Chip Shots, the classic book question. What is one book you would recommend and what have you learned from it, right? That type of question. Now, I've got great answers, and I've got a great book list going. I don't know, 25, 30 books on the website. I've read some of them, all great stuff. So check out that post if you haven't. But when I put this segment together, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. I wasn't really looking to pick a winner, but I had to. Without a shadow of a doubt, we have a clear winner and an outstanding contribution from Chris Woders. His answer clearly stuck out because, well, let's just say he came thoroughly prepared. Here it is.
But since we're doing this for a larger audience, I've got a couple of them. First of all, is this little baby, Gung Ho, which is, by the way, the name of my company, if you remember well. Second one is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I had the privilege of working with him before he got famous. So, and when you read it, you might as well buy the follow-up book, Find Your Own Why, Find Your Own Purpose. I know which one is mine. I worked my way through puppies like this, William James contribution to psychology. Obviously, I worked my way through Jung, Carl Gustav Jung, the archetypes. Big books. I do, however, recommend a very nice summary of the main archetypes by Carl Gustav Jung. Another one is also written by a psychologist. It's Dr. Thomas Eriksson. It's a Swedish psychologist. And did you know that in Scandinavia, so there are more copies sold of this book than there are inhabitants? So definitely recommend this one. And then last but not least, and then I'm going to stop with the books. And then I came across this one, Maps of Meaning by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. So that's it. We started with Gung Ho. We ended up with Jordan Peterson. Yeah.
Now let's let's move to Does It Hold Water? My favorite segment of the show. This segment was inspired by My Cousin Vinny, one of my favorite movies of all time. You've probably heard me talk about it. So what happened is the quick version. So last winter, when I was dreaming up this podcast, I was trying to think of things to do and I felt stuck. But I was rewatching My Cousin Vinny with my wife, and what struck me was the final scene where Vinny puts Mona Lisa Vito on the stand. She has no idea why, and he asks her, "Does the defense case hold water?" And she realizes, oh my God, it's so obvious. The car could not have left the tire tracks. And so that's the idea here, right? It's to debunk a common misconception, reinforce a kind of a counterintuitive argument. And, sometimes it's so obvious it's right there in front of you. Why didn't no one think of it? So that's kind of the goal, just to get a conversation going and talk about maybe, our guest's take on it. So here's how it works. I read a quote or a piece of thought leadership to my guests, and something I could have found on LinkedIn, a hot take, a popular belief, anything, a quote from someone, and they decide if it holds water or not, right? Do they agree or not? It's meant to just stimulate a conversation, and it certainly has. The best part of it is the guests don't know the question in advance, right? So, we prepare a little for the show, the outline of the show, what are we going to talk about, but they do not know the question in advance. So, does it hold water question is a complete surprise. They get a little excited, maybe even nervous. What the hell is Gary going to ask me here? But it's worked really well. It's been a blast. So, I have selected 2 winners for this segment, but let's start with the runners up. You're going to hear in order from Rick Denton, Christy Faltarusso, Chris Woders, Andrew Carruthers, Dave Seaton, and Chris Hood. Let's roll.
And one is what I called at the beginning of 2024 the great CX reckoning of 2023. And it was this idea that companies, because of either the reality of perception of tighter economic times or just the perception of tighter economic times, really looked at where they were getting value inside their own business. And the perception of CX was, well, that's kind of neat and it's nifty and all, but I'm not getting any ROI out of it. And so the great CX reckoning, you really saw massive layoffs and reduction in customer experience roles and teams and leaders in that late 2023. And it's extended into 24. And that reckoning had a little bit of okay, CX people, we realize that we need to not only love our customers and talk about empathy and build really pretty journey maps. We need to be there actually delivering a financial return, a cold, hard dollar financial return in the vein of reduced cost or tangible increased revenue. Because if you can't convince a CFO, there's really no reason for the company to continue. And that was something that was hard for a lot of CX people to accept. I had plenty of conversations with folks that were like, well, wait, HR doesn't have to justify itself. So what? CX does.
CX, right.
And CX needs to create an ROI.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. This one's right up your alley. Okay. The defense team today, Christy, is the sales team. And the sales team's case is built around this statement. The problem I have with customer success managers is they don't often act with enough urgency. Does it exist?
Sadly, I kind of think it holds water. Okay, so in my defense, and I actually had this conversation with a sales leader or expert or influencer, and he and I discussed this at length because I don't disagree. I think that sometimes, listen, sales acts with a specific urgency because there is revenue in the line, right? So there is a clear motivator there. Sometimes customer success does not, right? Because they don't understand what to prioritize. And so I don't know that it's not that they're acting with urgency. I think it's that they lack the ability to understand impact. And so they might not be prioritizing the same things.
AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20% in the next 1 to 5 years. Now, we was talking about the U.S., of course, but the theme is the same. So what do you think of that quote from an AI leader?
Now, first of all, you have to know I'm European. we are not as politically correct as US citizens. So that being said, I believe that's horseshit. Honestly,
Yeah.
AI is just another change we're going through. Sure, we will need to learn to adapt, and sure, it will have impact on some jobs. And I'm convinced that some jobs will disappear, but it will create other jobs. Look, 200 years ago, before we discovered petrol, specifically in the US. Whale oil was the source of fuel or fossil fuel, and you had a lot of whale hunters, or seamen that sailed whale hunter ships. We don't have sail hunters anymore, or hardly any. So because we discovered petrol, and we learned to refine it and to use it as the fossil fuel still around, the demand for whale oil declined massively. Was it the end of the world? No, it was just change. It's the same with the automobile. um, you know, when Mercedes Benz invented the automobile, or Ford, you can take your pick. Um, Everybody was just using horse and carriage. You hardly see any horse and carriage anymore. So that means that the carriage makers, they're out of a job. Yeah, so there are other jobs that were created. You have a car mechanic now. So AI, it will have an impact on how we do things. Is it going to be the end of the world? Is it going to be that dramatic? I don't think so. We will make mistakes in using that technology for sure, like we did with any possible or imaginable technology. But we will learn from it. I mean, that makes us human. We learn from our mistakes. Sometimes we make the same mistake a couple of times, but eventually we learn, and we adapt. So, no, BS as far as I'm concerned.
I love this. Yeah, let's go.
We're going Hollywood, okay?
Okay.
And I cannot do this justice because the actor who recited this speech was marvelous. And the quote comes from the last speech of Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. Peter Dinklage, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do my best. Are you ready? In his
Bring it.
last speech, he says, "What unites people? Armies, gold, flags? No, it's stories. There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it. No enemy can defeat it."
You know, I'm going to say holds water.
I know, but I
Absolutely.
said that is just a great one to throw in there. Awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, think of it this way. Tell me a fact. There's an old adage. Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me the truth and I'll believe. But tell me a story and it'll live in my heart forever.
Brilliant. I thought this was a good one. Obviously, you would agree with it, but I mean, what he's saying here is there's nothing more powerful than a good story. No army, etc. Pretty interesting way to end it. I don't know that most people would think of it that way, but when you really think of it, maybe he's right.
I think he's absolutely right. I think, you remember the old Who song of, with the line around, or meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So armies, flags, whatever, they may, you may be able to buy people with gold temporarily. The gold runs out or people always want more. You may be able to subdue people with armies, but that doesn't mean you've won them over. There still might be resistance. And same thing with flags, with nationalism. But you tell them a story and you get them to believe in an idea or in you as an executor of that idea. Now you've got them forever.
So, Dave, the defense today is a CX consultant, and the CX consultant says, when we dive into CX work, we start every engagement with a CX maturity assessment. It's not an obligatory box checking exercise. It's foundational. It gives us a solid read on where the organization stands with CX, whether it be just at the beginning or to see if they are CX fluent. So does this defense CX consultant attorney have a great idea? Does it hold water or not?
Maturity assessments are a great thing that consultants love to sell as a foot in the door. I have, and of course, right, you do the maturity assessment and then you point out all the gaps and all the ways that you can help, right? It's straight out of any consulting playbook. I have never met a CEO, CFO, COO who cares about their CX maturity on some scale. They care about business results. They care about, are we growing revenue? Are we keeping costs in check? Are we acquiring new customers? Are we retaining existing customers? And so I find a lot of these maturity assessments don't resonate with the leaders that I'm talking to. So I don't do maturity assessments. If somebody else can, sell that for $8,000 and get their foot in the door, that's great. If you're buying a maturity assessment, understand you're just paying somebody to come along and sell you more work when they're done.
Already.
I got a good one for you today. So the defense today is a doctor's office. And recently on LinkedIn, I saw this post from a doctor. It says, imagine a world where AI revolutionizes healthcare by detecting cancer earlier, minimizing misdiagnoses, and tailoring treatments. This vision is now a reality. Machine learning, a subset of AI, has shown remarkable capabilities in enhancing diagnostic accuracy, which can lead to better patient outcomes. That is the whole statement.
So I will say that holds a lot of water.
Mhm.
And there's two sides of this. I'll talk about the side that holds the water and the side that does not hold the water, which is good. In general, I think one of the great things that AI and machine learning is going to help us revolutionize is detection of various types of ailments. And we think about like the cure for cancer. I would almost guarantee that within our lifetime, in the course of the next, say, 10 years, AI will probably be contributed with finding a cure for cancer.
Wow.
That's because it can leverage large amounts of data and typically see things that we as humans cannot see.
Wow.
So there is a lot of really, really good, strong research that is happening in this space right now.
Yeah.
The flip side of this is a question, a hypothetical question that I ask people. And it's one that kind of gives us a different perspective of the healthcare system and how we, again, as consumers, think about it. Let's say that you were diagnosed with some sort of brain problem. Maybe you have a tumor or something, and you would have to have brain surgery. And your neurologist comes into you and says, look, we have to do surgery, but there's a couple of ways we can do this. One way is I will actually perform the surgery. I've got some great tools. I've done this thousands of times, thousands of patients. I will admit that I have about a 95% success rate. But trust me, I've done it before, and you're in good hands. The second option is we have now a new AI-powered robot. It's only done this maybe 2 or 3 times, but it has a 99% success rate within that. Which option would you like? Now, I'm going to ask you what your response is, and then I'll tell you what you think. What do we think the other people's responses are?
You give me the human. It's not even a consideration. Yeah.
It's not a consideration. So when I ask this of most people, they will all say the human surgeon. I want the human. I don't want an AI in my brain trying to take out a tumor. Yet, as we see in the demographics, the younger demographics, like if you start to get down to Gen Z, the 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds, you ask the same question, they are more likely to actually take the AI. Their trust and faith or upbringing in AI is much stronger. But there you go, right? It's an example of how even though we do see AI is being leveraged in some fascinating ways in terms of healthcare, there are still some lines that we are not ready to cross when we're thinking about AI and our health.
Okay, so Does It Hold Water has been a great segment all around, but there were two moments that stood head and shoulders above the rest to me. So we're calling it a tie. It isn't really about winning here. It's about sharing these great moments with you. But first we have the amazing Alyssa Nolte. She's clear, confident, and just incredibly well-reasoned in this response, and she just knocks it out of the park. And then there's the sensational Simona Costantini, CEO and founder of Volt Productions. She and her team have been so helpful in teaching me how to do this. But she certainly delivered what do I call a courtroom-level close in her response. Precise, persuasive, emotional, and right to the point. So these answers, they don't just hold water, they were just fabulous. So let's hear from the clear winners here, Alyssa Nolte, followed by Simona Costantini. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
I put a couple quotes together for you here, but basically the defense today is talking about change in organizations. And the defense attorney says, any change effort will be met with inertia and resistance. That's just how human nature works. People dislike change. There's too much of it. Change fatigue is real, and most change initiatives fail because of this resistance to change. Does the defense case hold water?
It does not hold water. It's so funny. I actually published an article on Tuesday, 2 days ago, about this very topic. People are not resistant to change. They are resistant to uncertainty, lack of clarity, and lack of understanding of the environment and the experiences that they are having that require this change. So saying people are resistant to change, that's a cop-out. If you are a leader who is saying that, you aren't doing what it takes to actually move your team forward. You aren't leading with intention. You aren't communicating well. You are not going to build a team that is resilient and that is high performing. And no, it does not hold water.
All right. Yeah, and my guest has no idea what I'm asking them. And believe me, you have no idea what I'm asking you.
Oh, no, I'm so excited. Okay.
All right. Your question is from an Italian thought leader. Okay.
Ooh.
There you go.
Very fitting.
Your quote comes from Marcus Aurelius. And about 2,000 years ago, he said, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself in your way of thinking.
I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because the life that we create on the outside is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves on the inside. And I believe that we get to do a lot of things in life. We get to have businesses, work in corporations, have consulting businesses, have, marriages and children and houses and all of the things, vacations, all of the stuff, right? And there's no negating that those things bring us a lot of joy. But there's also people who have all that stuff that are probably some of the most unhappy people you could ever meet, who don't have gratitude for the things that they have, who always want more and it never feels like enough. And so I believe, just based off of all the conversations I've had about happiness in my life and the work that I've done on myself and the people that are in my life that I surround myself with, the way that you think about yourself, the way that you feel about yourself, and the work that you do on yourself will continue to make you feel more at peace. For me, the definition of happiness is inner peace. And so if you want a happy life, how do you make the inside of you the most peaceful that it can be? So I agree. And the defense rests.
That's right. Okay, that's a wrap on our 1 year retrospective. In part 2, we're going to take a broader look at the show, the CX leaders, the customer success leaders, the leadership experts, and the entrepreneurs who shared their perspectives with us in the past year. So thank you for listening to the best of the segments, and thank you for supporting the show this year and being part of the journey. I hope you're enjoying your break. As you can see, I've got the Legos out. Took it easy for you. It's a relaxing week. But I will see you in part 2. Thank you for listening to part 1. See you real soon. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to maracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Mara, working hard for your customer and your success.